all eyes right now are at what's happening in New York. Security has been tightened outside the New York courtroom that is weighing on the charges of hush money and the Trump Towers in preparation of what many are seeing as a possible arrest. A former president has never been prosecuted in the history of United States, has not been indicted. This week, that may change. In fact, what we do know till now is it's been 5 days since the former US President Donald Trump even went on to not only say that he would be arrested or that he may be arrested, but also asked his supporters to come out in support of him in protest. What exactly is all of this about? I'm being joined by Steve Herman, who is the Chief National Correspondent for Voice of America. Thank you very much, Steve Herman, for joining us. My first question to you is, while all of this is about an alleged hush money which was given to a porn star, a backhand deal perhaps between a former US president and the porn star Stormy Daniels, while all of that is sub judice, is being heard in court. What exactly is the status of this case? That's what first I want to know, Herman.
Yes, and it is a great question because everybody in America would like to know the answer to it. What is happening today is the grand jury, which has been handling this case in secret, is meeting in New York City, in Lower Manhattan. They meet every Monday and Wednesday, and that's perhaps why Trump put out a message that he was going to be arrested on Tuesday, yesterday here in the United States, because it did meet on Monday, but nothing happened on Monday, or as far as we know. Again, we'll probably get the first word that something has happened, that charges have been returned, probably will come from Donald Trump himself, who is in Florida at his private club in Mar-a-Lago.
Right. In fact, Herman, tell us the ramifications of all of this. If at all Donald Trump is going to be indicted, what we are hearing is this is the first time that a US president is going to be indicted ever. Of course, he's a former US president, that apart. But how is this going to pan out if at all this does happen? And considering he was called in for even to testify in this case, we are being told that there are higher chances that it may actually happen.
Well, this is one of several potential criminal cases against the president. And if he is charged and arrested in this New York case or the other cases, he would be running for president while he's facing legal scrutiny. Now, will he be convicted and jailed before the election in November next year? It's a possibility, but could be unlikely as well. Yes, this is unprecedented, but we have two minor footnotes in American history that relate to this. Yes, he can run for president even if he were in prison. That happened in 1920 in the United States when Eugene Debs, who was the Socialist Party candidate, ran for president and actually got almost about 4% of the vote across the United States. He did quite well in New York, actually. Also, President Ulysses Grant in the 1870s was actually arrested while he was president for speeding in his carriage near the White House. Of course, that was more of an embarrassment than a scandal. These cases that Donald Trump faces are quite serious, however, although there's a huge question because the hush money payoff is itself not illegal. It's how that money was recorded and whether it had any connections to his presidential campaign. Some people are saying these may be relatively minor charges, but we don't know. It's all speculation. We do not know if the grand jury is going to return criminal charges and what those charges will be.
In fact, just to give a perspective to our audience who may not be following this case in minute detail, this hush money charges or the allegations that have emerged were very close to what was happening in the presidential elections last term. And now it is surfacing as we are nearing 2024 presidential elections again. Is that correct?
Yes, this deals with a payoff that Trump's attorney at the time, Michael Cohen, who was convicted of charges and went to prison.
And is also a man who's testified in this case, if I'm not wrong.
Correct. So that is potentially problematic if there's not some sort of smoking gun. If you're putting this convicted felon on the stand as the star prosecution witness, the defense could have a field day with that. But I would stress two things. One, it's not about the hush money payment itself. It's how that payment was recorded.
Correct.
And the second part of it is really considering what ramifications this is going to have on the presidential election and whether there may be some more serious charges coming from the Manhattan District Attorney that we do not know about.
Right. So, Steve Herman, when you made that first point, it's not about hush money, but the way it was done. We're really talking about whether it could be established if there were tax evasions.
Well, it's more of a bookkeeping matter, which some people argue should be just a misdemeanor charge. And if a prosecution is brought forth, usually this is the type of case that would not be prosecuted. So there are questions about whether this district attorney, who's not really considered a political figure, is doing this just because it's a big name. But the motto of the Manhattan DA's office is do the right thing at the right time for the right reasons. And we'll find out if that's true.
Right. Herman, one question, if at all the arrest does happen, how is it going to pan out?
Again, Trump could force New York to try to arrest him in Florida, or he could go voluntarily to New York and make an appearance there. What we do know is Trump will definitely want to orchestrate this. He has a mastery of these sort of appearances on camera, and he will try to make it to his advantage, not only for his presidential campaign, but perhaps for fundraising as well.
Right. One last question, Herman, and I'm being told we're totally out of time, but you know, there were a lot of followers and there's a lot of frenzy around Donald Trump, at least amid his followers. Even as he went out and gave a call, come out and protest in support of me, we've not really seen much of that happen. What does one make out of that in U.S. politics?
Well, I think it may be premature to make a judgment about that. Trump has called for protests if he's arrested. So far, nothing really has materialized. But if we have a number of days knowing that something is going to happen, that he's going to make an appearance, that gives enough time for people to gather. But there will also be anti-Trump protesters as well, and potentially a clash between the two sides.
Right. Of course, U.S. gearing up for what could possibly be a very high security event if it does happen. Thank you very much, Steve Herman, for joining us on this discussion.